In 2018-19, Bale worked alongside CDHB staff to evaluate the effectiveness of a 4-month pilot safe recovery intervention, which aimed at reducing the number of falls within the 4 older person rehabilitation wards at Burwood Hospital. Bale used a realist evaluation approach, not only asking what works or does it work, but why or how does it work, for whom, and in what circumstances.
So I ended up working with Bale on a recent research project that I did out at Burwood Hospital, and I was asked to think about some of the things that were positive about working with Bale through that process. And we wouldn't have been able to do it without the Bale researcher team helping us and guiding us through it. And what I mean by that is that we had to start from this huge amount of information that we had, and with Bale's help we were able to make sense of it and actually know what we should be putting into place and actually starting to collect our data and what we should collect. And it's not just from a quantitative perspective of how many people we saw or what we actually did, but actually a lot of the qualitative stuff that we probably would have missed otherwise as clinicians. Specifically, not just what the patients were thinking, but also our volunteers and ourselves and the overall process and how that ended up changing as we continued to deliver the program and learn new information. We were able to embed and sustain new changes as we went along and understand how that actually influenced our outcomes. And so the main thing that I ended up reflecting on was that if we did this program as clinicians, we might have ended up with an outcome still that it did or didn't work, but we might not have understood why that was the case. And so adding some value to it by having Bale's influence and understanding that qualitative perspective has led us to understand what we should be doing next out of this project and what some of the outcomes are, even if we don't have all the quantitative information. Having that qualitative helps back us up. So working with Bale really helped drive our data gathering and our analysis and processes that made our overall program a lot richer, and was generally just brilliant to work with, and to have that kind of supervision and support from people with experience and research was fantastic, and we couldn't have done it without them really. So brilliant stuff.
I've been asked to talk about what researchers get out of a collaborative project between clinicians and researchers, and I'm thinking about our project with the Burwood clinical staff around the implementation and evaluation of the Safe Recovery Program. It was a very, very useful process, and there's a few things that for me stand out. First is having clinicians involved at a very early stage meant that the way we designed the project was very practical. We'd already had considered what it meant to recruit people, how we were going to gather the data, what was going to be sensible and useful, and so that was really well embedded in the real world, you might say, right from the get-go. Secondly, we met sort of weekly to fortnightly throughout the whole evaluation. And what that meant was that we sort of were able to think about things that needed to change in the way the program was being implemented, or different data we needed to focus on gathering along the way. So it led to much richer, deeper information, but it also meant that immediately we were translating this new learning that we were having into a real world context. So we weren't waiting for the project to end and then to make recommendations and hoping that people would make the changes. We were actually making changes as they went, and so that was an incredibly useful process. And finally, it was really fun. There was a great sense of collegiality as we shared ideas and challenged each other, and got excited about the possibilities of clinically embedded research.
Burwood Academy of Independent Living. Research that matters by people who care.